Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza, Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza, Florida. And today, which is our season 4 finale, I have a very special guest. She is a Filipino-American working as a nursing professor at CSULB, which is Cal State Long Beach. She's the host of the Global Nurse podcast to highlight the lives of Filipinos around the world. She loves traveling. In fact, she's been to 47 countries, and she's passionate about making a difference. She's also the executive director of the One Earth Foundation, and she happens to be a longtime dear friend of mine. So everyone, please welcome Kaye Retardo to the 8 Billion podcast.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Oh, welcome, Kaye. So I'm going to have to let everyone know we are recording this probably days before I launched the season finale, only because when I originally recorded Kaye back in June of 2021, there has been so much time that has lapsed. I recorded so many guests in just the summer. It took me 6 months to launch everyone's podcast.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought it was fitting because I started the season 4 with Christine Reyes, a Filipina, and the podcast obviously grew globally because of her, because of her coming back, of her coming on. That I wanted to say thank you to everyone in the Philippines, and of course share your story, Kaye. So,
thank you so much, Lisa, for giving me the opportunity. I know when we even initially recorded, I was in Turkey. So I guess it's like, okay, let's do this one more time when we're in the same, country.
Same time zone. In fact, we're probably only like in, different counties right now.
Yes, like an hour away maximum with traffic.
Yes, So I just wanted to, and one of the things that I wanted to do was also support Kaye because she launched a podcast. So geared towards Filipinos that are working all abroad, most especially nurses.
Yes. So as you can see, it's the Global Nurse podcast, and I'm just featuring nurses from different countries. They have migrated in different countries, and just talking about that whole journey, how they are doing, the challenges, what are the triumphs, and what are the advocacies that they have. That's one thing that's really great about this nurses is that they have really devoted themselves into nursing. Then now they're finding a new chapter. What's next for them? So it's a quite interesting way to like understand how nurses are thriving and going through the whole process of living abroad.
Yes. And if there's anything Filipinos are known for, we're known for being nurses all around the globe, right?
I know, yes.
In every country. So it's a need. And I wanted to do this for the Philippines, most especially because there are probably people that are nursing students probably looking to go abroad, because one of our biggest exports in the Philippines is our people, because we're known to be the country that sends out our people, to labor in different countries and then help our families back at home.
Yes, that's really something that, I think only immigrant individuals, mostly nurses, that really, I would say overseas worker, although, different industries, but mainly I'm focusing on nurses. And that's true. It's something that, unless you're in that type of family dynamic where you think about you're actually an investment, your education, you being a nurse who would work and live abroad will help elevate your family's financial situation. So, that's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure.
So I'm just hearing that from nurses that I have interviewed. It's like, wow, and what they have to go through. Mm-hmm. It's quite different with my own migration. I have family here. We are more of, and that I would say middle class in the Philippines. So that's why my family migrated very late. Even if most of my mom's siblings were already here, cousins were born here, my parents really stayed in the Philippines so much longer than the rest of the family because we were comfortable.
Mhm.
There's help. There's, so there wasn't that financial urgency, or and we're very grateful. Like, it's just, it's a simple life, but comfortable. So we really migrated after I migrated after college.
Well, let me ask you, because, and this even just goes even beyond that, because I know, I mean, right now your podcast is specifically geared towards telling nurses stories, but, even in so many different spaces, like even in the cruise industry,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
It's huge, Filipinos, and they love Filipinos, as employees because they speak English very well.
Yes.
We come from a very kind culture. The etiquette is very good. And so, my heart goes out to all of the families in the Philippines, not just nursing families. It's just all of the families that have to, or have sent out their loved ones to provide for them.
Yep. I mean, like, we'll have in Hong Kong, we're known more as nannies.
Correct.
People like, and so can you just imagine? I mean, I cannot imagine the feeling of a mom going to a country caring for other people's children while they have left
they have
behind
children themselves.
their yes. So that's the story, and I think that's what's not being talked about. And it's about time. I mean, it's just really, let's just be honest about the sacrifices that Filipinos have done. And, I think sometimes it's that feeling of nakakahiya. Let's not talk about it. Let's just push it under the rug. But that's really what made us, also with the grit, with the resilience, being able to adapt. And at the same time, there's that mental health component that is not often talked about, because it's that feeling of, let's not talk about that. That's within the family. Let's not say that it's difficult. Let's not say that it's challenging. Let's not talk about the abuse that you have received from your employer. Like, let's just focus on all the balikbayan boxes that you have sent out to your relatives. And I'm not saying that's wrong, like, to focus on that, but let's just acknowledge the whole individual, that there are good days and there are bad days.
No, and absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, Kaye, because with Christine Reyes coming out with her story, I cannot begin to tell you what a following there was, of even just statistically, from what I gathered with the data that I had from the podcast. It was women or ladies that were between 20 and 35 years old. And they were saying how brave she was for coming out with her story. And it even made her so much more human to them, even though she is, right? I mean, I know her, like, she's like a sister to me. Yeah. But of course, she's a big celebrity in the Philippines. For her to come out with that story, I mean, it really was very inspiring to acknowledge that, because it is, and even if you come here and, like myself, born and raised in the United States, because our parents are taking the culture from the Philippines, we still have a lot of that trauma and the generational stuff that we go through.
Yes. I mean, I think now I'm just laughing because it's also uncomfortable, like, but it's true, right? I mean, there's just so many statistics that are out now that among the Asian immigrants, Filipinos have been having a lot more mental health that are not really talked about, more than all the others. It's just, and I would say, it's common among Asians that keep it to ourselves, not to rock the boat. But thankfully, I would applaud the Gen Zs, the millennials, who are just saying that this is not okay, or the second and third generation Filipinos who would say, stop, you're not allowed to talk to me that way, or, to, like, what they would say, toxic titas, toxic titos, about just how we would say that it's a jokey way of either the weight, the racism,
right?
So all those things that, and I'm just kind of like smiling now, because it's a very difficult situation even among my relatives, So.
Or even another perfect example is Jokoy, right?
Exactly.
When he talks about how his mom raised him, I was like, you guys want to see the trauma that we
Yes,
went through as first generation American Filipinos here. So
exactly. Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so
Mhm.
glad that we are on this subject because you're right. I talked about it and I'll talk about it and just depending on the
Mhm.
guest,
Yes.
and whatever that subject area is that
Mhm.
I have. But for me, Philippines holds a very, very like special place for me. Like, if there's a country that really could adapt to the Western culture, it's really the Philippines. They're like this Pacific island culture that is very westernized.
I mean, it's just really, we have been colonized so much, like
Mm-hmm.
our history. And I have recently seen this series from Lisa Ling that was featuring all the different cuisine restaurants in the US. And I was very surprised to find out. That's how, I'm aware that Filipinos, the Manila men, came here before the US became United States. Like we were really the first people, like in Louisiana, in New Orleans, that there's this Manila men who jump ship from the Philippines, riding like a ship from Spain. I mean, going to Spain, and they jump ship in New Orleans because New Orleans was a colony of Spain that time. And
Oh,
so those Manila men, and then now they're like seven generations in, and of course interracial marriages. Like some of their their descendants, they look very Caucasian, and because of all the intermarriages. But yeah. So I mean, before it became the U.S., before the Brits came, so it was like whoa. Before
wow.
Chinese, I mean, like and so it was just a little bit of like pride, and at the same time like wow. But at the same time, we have just adopted. We haven't really gone to like honoring our culture so much. I mean, we don't see a lot of Filipinos proudly wearing their Filipinianas. Versus
Mhm.
when I see Koreans and Japanese, they, when given the chance, you can definitely say like, oh yes, they are
Yeah.
wearing their national costume. And Filipinos, not yet, not as mainstream, or not as I mean,
But
sometimes, yeah.
when when there are Filipinos that actually come up, like whether they build a name for themselves, such as Joe Coy
Yes,
or Manny
yes,
Pacquiao,
yes,
they've
yeah,
got the whole support and love of the country.
yes.
That's what's
Mm-hmm.
amazing about Filipinos. And that's why I was just like, I've got to pay homage to my motherland. Granted, I was
Exactly.
born here in the United States, but there's something, you know what I mean? My
Yes.
parents, like, I'm a child of theirs. The soul, the culture, the way they just brought it here to the United States.
Yes.
But
I think,
that's why it's really, so I just want you to know, if you're anyone from the Philippines tuning into this episode, we want to really acknowledge the fact that you guys are really taking a stand for what's right, most especially when it comes to mental health issues.
yes. Finally, yes. It's being talked about more. We are making it, heading to talking about it as a normal thing, and a little bit more, less resistance. I think it's parenting ourselves first, because we need to, I believe it all, as we know from science, self growth. It's the internal work, and then that's when other people in our life starts to cue in, like, oh, okay, this is something that needs to be talked about. At the same time, be respectful of other perspectives. So
And we're
yeah.
going to go into personal development next, because that's how Kay and I
Yes.
met.
Yes.
However, what I did want to acknowledge for all the Filipinos on here, and even if you're not Filipinos and you're the audience of 8 billion, truly, I just wanted to share what it's like to come from the Philippines. But they have so much love for their people that just want to say thank you, really, on the side note, because of my launch of Christine. I had even ranked on Apple Podcasts in documentary in the
Oh
Philippines, Hong
wow.
Kong, Saudi Arabia, and
Wow.
one more country. I'm going to actually put that. So thank you to all of you. And that's to really show you how spread out around the world that you guys are. So you really have a voice. And I really want you guys to rise and really be proud of being Filipino, because we really have been around the world doing our, our skills, using our skills and talents everywhere. So, love yourselves, be proud of yourselves. I'm proud to be Filipino. And
me too. Yes.
yeah.
So agree. Yep.
Yeah. But, on that note, when we were talking about that, and it probably is very fitting, is Kaye and I actually met through SAI seminars, which is personal development, So
that's true. Yeah. And so, and I think, I started when I was 18 and I'm now 44. So it's quite, it's been a while. And I was just having this conversation with my sister, Karen, that sometimes we forget how long we have been doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would still go into I doubt myself when I probably may have snapped on my boyfriend, my fiance, and all that stuff. And at the same time, I would say that know that it is a journey. It's not a destination that says you got here, you have it all together. So it's that constant inner work. And at the same time, I know that from where I have started to where I am now, I have just used the tools that we have learned day in and day out without even knowing that it's the tool that I learned, the first day, last day, or 1 + 1 = 3. So just that collaborative, what we're doing now, basically 1 + 1 and +3, and the ripples is just, we'll never know. So those kind of things. So, but,
and that's the desire for me, is to provide this type of content to, and these ways of thinking and operating, right? To deliver that to the Philippines and to any of the other countries that don't necessarily have access to a lot of this stuff. I mean, the United States really has been one of the front runners in the forefront of personal development, only because we come from so many different, backgrounds and cultures that here it's easier to come across that stuff. But in the Philippines, to even attend a seminar would really just be so difficult. But what they do have right now is these tools through social media to really expand on that.
Yes. So since you mentioned that, since PSI is really global, is that I took my first basic class in the Philippines.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then I took my advanced courses here in the States. So that's, and again, with that one, you could really already say that it really was catered to a certain demographic. And so we just need to really acknowledge that there's that privilege, and I really appreciate what you're saying, that now with social media, Facebook, Instagram, at least having those tidbits with what you post and what other people who's doing the work are posting, it starts to become more accessible, even bits and pieces.
Yeah. I know that from my standpoint, most especially with my mission, the spiritual, for myself, sometimes the concepts that I'm putting out there are a lot, when I talk about fifth dimension or oneness consciousness, it's still a little bit harder to grasp. But I'm actively trying to work with a nonprofit organization that might help, that we could put together, some even of the basic stuff.
Oh, yes.
Which will help understand the concept of the way you even just think. It's like the SAI basic, right?
Exactly. Yes. I think it even starts with acknowledging, even having that formula of, I feel this when I experience this from you. Even just having that awareness of the I rather than you, or even saying always, you never. Those words are already big triggers, which just can get your mental health spiraling down. And so,
or the voice in your head.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
They're all like, what voice? That's the voice.
Exactly. The voice that you answered. Yes. So even the I statement of I feel this way. And so that's even just a simple switch of when I am upset, I really say, I own that.
Yes.
Versus before of self-awareness, it's you did this to me, you made me angry. No, I I am angry. I am upset, so that victim and responsible
Absolutely.
switch. So even that, I think, that's, if there's anything that I will recommend, it's just that practice of just saying, like, I owning it, it just feels different. It's like, oh, I
No, and you're
versus the
absolutely
you.
right.
Yeah,
Personal development is a lifelong journey.
it
It
is.
is. I mean, I've come out 44 years as well, Kay. To figure out, it's just not like you don't reach this destination and everything's perfect. It is an ongoing, like, evolution of ascension into, really truly finding who you are inside.
I agree. But then I think with that one though, like, things that may have irritated me back then, now it's just
yeah, right.
And so those are the wins for me. That's when, like, you know what? Silence.
Right.
Before, I just had that feeling of wanting to speak up so much, and just really more so with my intimate relationship. It's just that feeling of, like, coming from, there were three girls in my family, and then my brother, and me and my brother are 11 years apart. So it's even it's a very different type of
almost like
family dynamic. Yes.
Yeah,
and
because of how big the gap is.
And went to an all-girls school and then went to nursing school where it's predominantly female. And so I just had that better than type of feeling.
Yes.
So instead of working together with my intimate relationship, there was that competition, which was not healthy. And so until that light bulb really say that, yeah, I'm in partnership here. There's no competition. There's no, my day was worse, so you gotta listen to me, or like I had this more success than you. It is a partnership, and then there's just that your win is my win, and when I'm having a bad day or you're having a bad day, we're gonna support each other. There's really, and it took some time to really get there.
And one of the other things that came to mind while you were talking too is even, and I can probably even say that this is not even just Filipinos, and it's very big in the Asian culture. It's just respecting your elders. And where sometimes the confusion happens is that we're taught to respect our elders, and yet it's toxic. That sometimes, depending on who it is, they demand the respect if they're acting out of ego. And it's your view of what respect is becomes skewed, because why would you respect someone that is not treating you well? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so those are big things, Kay, that we're leading the pack in this, because we are that generation that's breaking this.
Now that you said that, that's really true. I tell myself, I put so much, let me just paraphrase that. But I think not having kids of my own, I feel that if there was just going to be a change or a shift in the consciousness of my generation and the generations after me, is that, like, say stop, or like us loving, and that's where it is. It's now learning the dance, because
it is.
I've had this. Yep, I've heard that conversation. I've had conversations with my mom. Thankfully, my mom had also done the personal growth, but very religious, Catholic upbringing. So we're creating this dance right now of, I hear you, we hear you, me and my siblings to her. But at the same time, that's not a supportive way of thinking, or it's not really about the race or the, religion. It's, so we're slowly doing the dance, and that's one thing I am very grateful for, is that my mom is willing to dance with us.
Yes.
It's not easy, because to her too, like, what do you mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
it's most especially when it comes to religion. And so there's a lot of different barriers. So hang in there, everyone that's watching. We are going to get through this together, and just understand we are going to a different place where the concepts of the way that we think and operate now are starting to change. So
exactly. Yep. I know. And it's, it's really a lifelong journey. It's a life school.
Right. It is. So take it from me and Kay, you guys keep going with where, any little bit of personal development that you could take. If you guys don't have, if there's not enough resources, always know that you guys have, most especially Facebook, there's you're really, whatever you put yourself, excuse me, I'm having this brain fog right now.
Yes.
But whatever you expose yourself to the most is what you're going to get in return. So if you're looking to grow personally and spiritually, or just evolve, what you look at, even between the television and what you put yourself around, is going to be what manifests around in your life.
I so agree that I mean, totally agree. I mean, and I think even the good thing about social media is that there's this rabbit hole, or or YouTube. Once you start probably putting 8 billion, and then you will just start, seeing in your algorithm more of the spiritual teachers that you maybe have mentioned, and all the other speakers. So, that's also the benefit of having that algorithm already program. So let's use it to our advantage,
right?
And I think, to me, now the one that I have, I just wanted to share this too, for other people that may be focusing on their mental health, relationship.
Yes.
I have not heard her up until I had my WLS Pinay sisters, Lena and Clarice, mentioned to me about Esther Perel. So she has been my a very good resource. She is a therapist, and her podcast focuses on recording actual clients for that day, and they go through that process. So she has
Filipina?
been. No, she is Jewish in descent, but she's been here also in the States. Yeah, but she has a different way of approaching things, and different relationships, mothers to daughters to intimate relationship, different genders, non-binary. So it's pretty good, because I've always listened to lectures where you listen to a concept and they are sharing their information, more like TED Talk. And she's been in TED Talk as well twice already, but I really like her podcast because she works with clients during that time, and how she just guides them towards the ahas, or to like self-discovery.
No, that's amazing. So again, her name is Esther Perel.
Yes, Esther, last name Perel. So,
nice. Okay, so for the audience, if you guys are interested in diving deeper into maybe a podcast that talks a lot about mental health from all different facets, definitely check out Esther Perel.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to go into all the passionate work that you do. A big congratulations goes out. That's why I wanted to re-record, because in that 6 months, congratulations, you are now engaged. You went from having a boyfriend to a fiance.
Yes, exactly. So yes, very grateful. Thank you so much. So it was, we've been together for over 6 years before it happened. So
nice.
Yes, and at the same time too, that's now that we you have asked me about this, it's really a whole journey to get there, because both of us, both immigrants. He's from Turkey, born in Turkey. I was born in the Philippines, and even creating that relationship of having our own, how we were raised, how's our upbringing, all those things becomes also in the relationship. And then also deciding like, marriage may not be the one for us. But then as I look back, and as we are having more conversation, it's like, is really the wedding what we wanted, or we wanted a long-term commitment, a marriage? So I mean, it doesn't have to be all that formality and all that stuff.
The institution part of it.
The institution part of it. That's the word. Yes. And then also deciding not to have kids. So all those things to have been just brought up to, and it's not something that is very Filipino.
Right.
So, and that, I think I really had to go deep and really, like, let's talk about what's real, like for me. And that's what the pandemic have really brought in, because we were all quarantined. So yep. I think for me it's much more easy to say that, yep, we may not get married, but we're engaged and we're committed in our relationship. we decided not to have kids, so all those things,
That is a new concept. So you guys are still trying to figure out right now if you guys are going to if there's going to actually be like marriage or the actual institution itself.
Actual institution itself. Yes.
Okay.
So we're deciding. I mean, it's COVID right now. And I know really more, if we were going to put the reason why, it's really because it will be more for family. It will be more for his parents and my mom, because my dad have already passed away. But it will be more for that, and not so much because we want to, because nothing has really changed. I mean, I think day by day.
That's what everyone says. That's what everyone says. Nothing really changes.
Yes. And so I think we just needed to be more authentic and be more honest. And so just having the reason that right now it will be for our parents and for family, or just to get, all the other people really say like, oh yeah, they got engaged, and of course they're getting married. And so now we're just starting to be more mindful about that, and really know, like, really, like, is this really what we want? And we're not rushing into anything. I mean, we waited so long. We're both, in our mid 40s, early 40s. So, we just said like, wow, we've waited this long. Like, are we gonna let society again and the the tradition dictate?
I was just going to say this. You guys, life can be anything you want it to be.
Exactly.
It really can. It's just that we've been brought up by a set of rules, organizations, institutions, structures that we were made to, not, whether it's, there's so much, opinions out there, whether it was forced upon us to control us and all this kind of stuff. But we were built upon certain structures that really aren't really conducive to taking us into where we really need to go, because we need to expand as a human race. And life can be full of different ways of expressing yourself, whether it's a marriage through institution or a ring on the finger. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an evolving process, but we have at least gone to that place that, okay, there's no rush to do anything, no wedding to plans. We're staying put. We're in this. We're going through like the whole process of really even better communication, being in touch with our own needs as a couple.
That's
our
the most
own individual needs as well, like how he has his own dreams and own goals, and I too have one, and then bringing,
and then how
together.
Do you merge them if you do, or how do you stay both like independent of that and be able to support each other on that? I
agree. That's basically, again, it's the dance. It's really the whole discovery. And I think sometimes, and I was too in that position even a decade ago, or I would even say like pre-pandemic. I was still like, I wanted to get engaged and get married, and haven't really taken the time to really say, really, like, is this really what you wanted, or is it because it has been what society has said? And now that I'm able to share it more, I am hoping it would also give other people a little bit more, I wouldn't say permission, because they don't really know me, but just know that there's other paths. And that's what I'm also thinking when I'm making certain decisions for myself, but also for my nieces and all the other generation, to say that, hey, you can really, you're not less of a person, or you won't go to hell for not getting married.
Well, no, it makes me laugh, Kaye, when you were talking, because I just had a flashback and a memory, because people were asking if you ever could get married again, would you? And I said, I really just want to wear the beautiful gown and party.
Exactly.
That's really what the girls want to do. Of course, I can't say that. Of course, I use that in a joking sense. But, just being women at the core, that fairy tale dream of wearing the beautiful dress and all of that kind of stuff, and then partying with everyone that you love, that in and of itself,
the celebration.
Right? But then everyone not everyone understands that there's all these responsibilities after that happens.
Yes. Or even like, I've heard certain people getting in debt just to have 100,000 wedding, or now that it gets to be more expensive. But talking about that, about like that, celebrating. I think one of my friends that I really applaud is that her name is Anna, and with her husband Eli, they got married, and then they had their big renewal of vows, which was the bigger wedding on their 10th year. And so I said, that's what weddings are supposed to be like. You gotta have that 10 years to really like celebrate the ups and downs, and then now like let's party, 10 years.
Right.
So I think I said, like, when they decided to renew their vows, I said, this is the concept that really needs to be done. Like, let's have a small wedding as we are getting started, and then let's see how it goes, and let's reward ourselves with that big party at 5, 10, or, when, because, some people really plan their wedding so much more than the actual marriage. So,
yes.
Yeah, and
the biggest thing is, know yourself first.
Exactly.
Be able to stand in that truth. And when you merge with someone, then and still be able to stand in that truth. Because if you do, you allow that person to have that space to do it for themselves.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, so true. Like, yeah, I mean, of course, for everyone, it's no judgment. It's just that for me, it is being an immigrant, being Filipino, being raised in a Catholic household with, both parents, loving each other, and decided to really marry and, have 4 kids. It's also a very transformational, but also not easy. I had to bottle through, like, is it really what I want? Is this true to me, or is it because it's a have to? So, and the journey, it hasn't ended yet. It's a journey, but this is where I'm at. This is where we're at with my relationship at the moment.
This is amazing. This is why I love having, friends on, most especially, just because sometimes we'll go off on tangents, but there's great information and things to take from and pull from, at least even kind of seeing the differences and letting you guys know that in mine and Kaye's generation too, we acknowledge the fact that we have a lot of things that even we're trying to break those barriers for our culture and generation. Like, we have to bear this torch. Okay. So yes, I honor you in all of your truth and your journey. It's been absolutely amazing. I wanted to, before I, and these podcasts go by so fast, but before I ask you to provide information where they can listen to your podcast and reach out to you, could you tell us a little bit more? You are the executive director of the One Earth Foundation.
Yes. So, my fiance and I have started this nonprofit, co-created, and also with his business partner. So there's like 3 people that really got us all motivated to give back. We're all immigrants, and so our focus with One Earth Foundation is more really about what our project have been providing clean water in developing countries, and we've also had wells that were made in countries where there were also a lot of the refugees. So we've had it in Africa, also in Bangladesh. Mostly a lot of our wells have been built in the African continent. That's where we found that much more needed. And then also education. So we have provided scholarships, our goal. And then the new one that I am leading is to basically create micro lending more for the women.
It's like Mohammed. That was one of my favorite books too. Muhammad Yunus, for the Nobel Peace Prize with microlending.
Yes. So I'm not in the process of recreating one. It's really already partnering up with other organizations that are already in the grassroots. So nice. I'm in the early stage, but to me, I had to talk to Adam, and I really had to say that this is what I am more passionate about now. I mean, I believe in education, and we still continue with the scholarship because we believe that education, knowledge is power. We're here because you know more, you make better choices. And at the same time, I know that when basic needs are basically, you do have a place where you can have the resource to buy food for your family, then that decreases your anxiety, the fear, so I said that I'll be focusing on women, and this will be just creating an avenue for them to be able to access resources, not giving them fish, but really understanding this concept of putting in something. It is almost like a bank, a small bank. It's a more of a co-op type of concept with and I'm starting in the Philippines, in Baguio. We're partnering up with small organizations there where this women can put in, will help them raise their initial deposit, so that it's more the secured credit. So
Yeah.
we'll put in a certain amount and they can borrow up to that amount and then repay that. So they're understanding that concept, because a lot of the banks would also require a much higher deposit, and the likelihood of paying it can be challenging. But as we partner up with other organizations, we're just trying to provide more information to these women that it's possible. And then when they have resources, it really gets them to think about other things, possibly create their own business on the side, even just selling small stuff here and there, cooking and selling it to the neighborhood. So that's basically the newest project that I am
That
leading.
you are working on,
Yes.
and your continued effort too on and this new engagement and seeing where it's going to take you.
Exactly. Yes.
But Kaye, you are truly, the epitome of an extraordinary woman, and it has been such a pleasure to share the screen with you and share your story and have you as the season 4 finale. So if anyone would like to actually get a hold of you, Kaye, and follow you, listen to your podcasts, or, could you please provide us your information?
Thank you, Lisa. So thank you, everyone, for listening. You can find me on Instagram, and it's The Global Nurse. And you can also find my podcast either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and it's The Global Nurse. And you can find the projects that we are involved in the1earth.org.
Awesome. Thank you again, Kaye, so much for, like I said, sharing all this wisdom that you did in the season 4 finale. And everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to all of season 4, or any of it, or for the journey with me here on 8 Billion. I am super excited to be working. Season 5 is already, some of it is on its way. It will be recording, and stay tuned as I, follow me on the socials. All the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, as I make the announcement. And this next season is a very special season for me. It's going to be called Season 5D. So thank you again for tuning in to the 8 Billion podcast. And I will catch you next season on Season 5D.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.